that women are making more money in the industry than men are, at least as performers?
Well, you have to really look at it from several different angles. If you're talking about a per scene rate, there are some guys that make more money than women. Okay, there are guys out there with $1,000 to $1,500 scene rates. Okay, there are a handful of them, but there are a couple that do. So if you look at the number of women versus the number of men that are working, and you look at, what do they make in a month versus what do the guys make in a month? Yes, the women are making vast more than the guys are. But if you look at it from a standpoint of performer to performer, and how long a woman will stay in the industry versus how long a man will stay in the industry, you tend to find that the men stick around for a lot longer, because once they're proven and they can do the job, they're a commodity. This is why you see the same guys over and over and over again. And you see guys that are still performing after 10, 15, 20 years, where there's a greater number of those guys than the greater number of women that are still performing after 15 or 20 years. So a guy's career can last much longer than a woman's career. And for the most part, I think most women, after a while, say, I've had enough of this, where the guys are like, hey, I'm never leaving. Yeah, you're going to have to, take me out on a stretcher when I'm dead to get me to quit. Whereas women are like, yeah, I've done this for, 5 years, I'm going to go on and do something else.
Right.
So overall, I think that it's kind of almost, I don't want to say equalized.
Does it balance that way?
It's balancing more because, like I said, more of the focus is on penis. More of the websites are about big cocks and stuff like that. So a guy that can do the job gets paid well, and he can stay here for a long time. And he has less competition. He's got a bunch more competition trying to come into the industry, because every guy thinks he can do this, and every guy wants to be able to do this, and
every guy can't.
No,
it is not.
It is not easy.
Not easy.
No, it's not. I try to, I do seminars for Exotica about breaking into porn, and I always ask, I get 70 guys, 10 girls in the audience, like, who wants to be a male porn star? Every guy's hand goes up. I go, okay, whose ever hand is up, leave your hands up. Out of the guys that have their hands up, how many are bisexual? And then, like, there's 2 guys left. And I'm like, you can be porn stars. And every guy's like, what? No, I'm not talking about gay porn. I want to do straight porn. I'm like, but you have to understand, straight porn now requires sex acts that are very bi in nature. You have to be, either you have to be bi, or you've got to be extremely
really
comfortable
right.
doing stuff that most straight guys would not be able to maintain a
Your
hard
cock's
with.
next to another guy's cock.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they're like, what are you talking about? And I say, double penetration. You're rubbing penises. You're inside a woman, but you're still rubbing penises.
You're still there, yeah.
Or you're doing double blowjob scenes where there's 2 dicks. You have to be very, very comfortable with that. And 99% of the guys are going to fail.
Yeah.
There are a lot of male porn stars that fail with that type of scene. So it's not as easy as people think it is. And it's funny because now that I'm in porn and I've been on set, I rarely ever watch porn. I usually get paid to watch porn because I've got to review it. But you can see a good scene with a good male performer from a bad scene because of the number of cuts and the number of shifts.
Interesting.
So the more fades and the more cuts that you see, that's probably the situation with him losing wood. And them, coming back and starting again, and then he loses wood again, and then come back and do it again. I mean, there's nothing sadder. I mean, there's nothing more sad than being on set and everybody's milling around. Like right now, if we were on set, we'd be sitting here talking, and there'd be some poor male porn star in the corner facing away from us, trying to block us out, jerking off, trying to get really hard, really quick to run back into the scene to be able to finish. And I always get. It's funny because it's sad, because everybody else is just like, oh God, I gotta, what time are we gonna be done? I gotta pick up my kids at 4. They're looking at them like, come on, really? Get hard. Can't move this along. And everybody, unless you go on set, you don't really get to experience what a porn set is like. And how sad it can be for the guy.
And that's just not sexy.
There was a guy who wrote a whole piece on, you think you want to be a porn star. imagine trying to get hard while listening to someone talk about their grandmother's dinner last Sunday, and he literally wrote it as if you can still get hard while reading this, go for it, have at it. And it was those kinds of things. It's like, yeah, I didn't feel so well last night. I had some really crappy Chinese food, and like that's the whole article. And
You got to go. I refer to male performers as sexual athletes because that's what they are.
Mm-hmm.
They are 100% sexual athletes. If you have the stomach flu the night before and you have a scene the next morning, you don't get to call out of work and be like, I'm not feeling good because you're not going to get more scenes. It's just like a football player.
Yeah.
You see football players play on the field and, you're like, oh, he's got the flu, but he's running down the field, he's catching balls
He's
because
got broken fingers.
that's what the job requires.
Sprained ankle, and you're still going.
And people don't. I even have in my seminars, I've got swingers, and the guy's like, oh, I fucked in front of people before. Well, that's half the job.
Right.
That's half the job.
And that's good. You need that.
The other half of the job is, would you be willing to bet $2,000 on your penis? And they're like, what? And be like, yes, that's what you're doing. Because when you walk on the set, there's a director, there's a cameraman, there's a videographer, there's a girl, there's a lighting guy, there's a location. All of this stuff costs money. And if you fail, they all get paid a kill fee. So imagine the pressure of going on set knowing that you have to make it work.
Right.
And if you don't make it
It
work,
all hinges on you.
if you don't make it work, that director is going to be suspect in hiring you again because you just burnt him for several hundred to up to $1,000 coming out of his pocket because your penis didn't work. You don't get to make that mistake more than once or twice in this industry unless you're an established star. And even established stars, they fail on set once in a while, but they have a history behind them. That, hey, it was an off day. Oh, okay, we know you've been here for 5 years, we'll use you again.
Yeah.
But if you're that new guy, and this is your first time on set, and there's $1,000 riding on your penis, that's not easy.
You got nothing.
I give
So
all the,
difficult.
there was a saying that Joel used to say that, the guy's furniture, but he makes the scene. If he's got a limp dick, if he can't fuck, it's a lousy scene.
Because
So
at least the girls could fake it.
the girls can fake it, the guys can't. Even
Guys
with
can't.
Viagra, you can't
Yeah.
fake it.
Right.
Yeah.
Caberjack, you can fake it, but you can't otherwise fake it. And it's not only faking it, you've got to be able to bring that intensity and passion as a male performer to make the scene good. Because if you're lame, the scene's going to be lame. So,
It's not easy.
but I do want to see women take more of a role in regards to being behind the scenes, being producers, being directors, getting their content, creating websites. It's great because Vanessa is one of the few. That's my wife, Vanessa Blue. She can shoot camera, take pictures, edit. She can author DVDs. She composes her own music. She builds her own websites.
Wow.
She does her own clips for sale store. There isn't anything that she doesn't do on her own. Which, from a standpoint of being a small business person, that's more money in your pocket.
Absolutely. You're not
When
paying
you
other
when you
people
can
to do
edit
this.
and you can do all of this, you're not paying anybody else to do it. So you can make more money off your content, and that's the kind of advice that I try to give, whether it's guys or girls. It doesn't matter. If you're going to be in this industry and you're going to produce content, then you have to learn how to do everything yourself because that's where you'll make the most money.
Yeah. Makes total sense.
And it's difficult because the thing that I hear over and over again from women is that no one gives me information. No one tells me anything. No one shows me anything. I get that. I get the fact that this is an industry where, why as a producer or a director do I want to tell you how to compete against me?
Right.
I want to pay you, do your scene, so I
Right.
can take your content and make a lot more money off
Or
of
as
it.
a model agent, I want to take your domain name, or I want to,
Exactly. But here's the great thing about the internet. Google is your friend. I mean, there are videos on YouTube that teach you how to edit. There are videos on YouTube that teach you how to set up your own website. If you search, you will find it and you can learn.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay anybody, you don't have to go to school, you don't have to get a degree. Literally. I mean, there's YouTube, you can find a video to teach you anything.
Yeah.
and everything having to do with this industry.
Now, one more aspect of this that I want to get into, and I don't know if this is your area or not. Do you know the actual laws regarding what kind of content is legal to shoot or legal to produce?
All content is legal to shoot
Is it?
until you go to jail.
Okay.
Even then, it's legal but costly.
Right.
You'll win, but you'll be destroyed.
Or you'll go to jail.
Well,
Yeah,
because years
you're
ago,
talking-
I'm saying like 15-ish years ago, before the internet, when it's magazines and VHS, not even DVDs yet, it was at least presumed that it was illegal to shoot bondage and penetration sex
Yes.
in the same video.
Yes.
Is that still true?
It has, well,
Did that change, or just people not paying attention?
here's the background. Here's the background of obscenity prosecutions. Okay, it for the most part, obscenity prosecutions are based upon a community standard. Okay, which means that there is no black and white, bright line law as to what is obscene and not. You can certainly say there are certain things that are on this side of the line, while there's things on this side of the line, but there's no defining law that says this is obscene, that's obscene, that's obscene, that's obscene. The only way that you can see what is obscene is by looking at obscenity cases that have already been prosecuted. But that only applies to the town where they were prosecuted in, because there may be something that's considered obscene in Topeka, Kansas, that would not be considered obscene in Los Angeles, California.
Yeah. So
And
many things.
yeah, and now because of the internet, there's a push to have more of a national obscenity standard than as opposed to a local obscenity standard. And the First Amendment guys who are on the line fighting these cases, you know, it's difficult cases to fight because, you know, just like we had one here in Pasadena with Ira Isaacs. And Ira Isaacs was a producer of scat movies. Scat movies, for whoever's watching, is shit movies. And he was prosecuted and convicted, and now he's going to jail. And that was in Pasadena, California. Would he have been prosecuted everywhere else? Probably so. But there are cases like Paul Little or Max Hardcore that was prosecuted in outside of Tampa, Florida. You know, where his type of content may not be obscene in New York City or Los Angeles. So there is no way to say, if you shoot this, you will go to jail. There are general recommendations. Years ago, Paul Cambria, another attorney in the industry for a long time, who I highly respect and admire, he came up with the Cambria list. And on this list were certain things that you shouldn't do. I mean, one of the things that he had on the list was interracial sex. Obviously, no one's going to jail now for interracial sex. But some of the things that he had on the list still apply. Personally, I think that if Obama had not been elected, and if we get back into a Republican White House, and we keep a Republican White House for a while, I think you will see the tying up and penetration come to a
Screeching halt.
prosecution.
Right.
Well, it won't come to a screeching halt, but I think you may see prosecutions for that. But I think at this point, you know, and again I say this, I'm not a First Amendment guy, and this is just from my experiences, not from my legal acumen or my background. But, you know, from the days of the Reagan and Meese commissions back in the 80s, you know, porn was made in Los Angeles at that time and nowhere else. So it was easy to target the industry. We were a confined little group, and it was easy to come down on us. Now porn is made in a lot of different states, in a lot of different countries. It's now distributed by way of the internet. You know, so if you want to prosecute somebody now, and you're trying to do it from an obscenity standpoint, where do you start? Who do you go after first? What type of content do you go after first? Are you more concerned with the scat movie, or are you more concerned with free internet porn on tube sites that 12 and 13-year-olds are watching? So I think porn has just exploded so much that it would be very difficult for a prosecution on a federal level or even on a state level to really have the same impact that it would have had back in the 80s.
Yeah.
I see it happening, you know, I mean, John Stagliano got prosecuted, and I think 20 years ago, if John Stagliano would have been prosecuted, it would have been like, oh my God, John Stagliano from Evil Angel. And now it's sort of like, yeah, it's another guy getting prosecuted.
Right.
Ira Isaacs got prosecuted. I don't think anybody from the industry went to that trial. It was right in our backyard. And, you know, Max Hardcore got prosecuted. He went to jail, and now he's out. Rob Black went to jail, now he's out, and they're both making porn again. So the days of these prosecutions really having a profound impact on the industry and changing the way it shoots and what people think, I think those days are over. And I think the government knows that. I don't think they think that they can stop what's going on in the porn industry by picking one or two people to prosecute. So I don't know. I wish I knew more about obscenity to know what was coming, but the guys out there that do it, like Mark Randazza and J.D. Odenberger and Jeffrey Douglas and Greg Piccinelli, these are guys that have been fighting obscenity prosecutions as attorneys for 20 years. They would be a better person to ask these questions too. But it's interesting. If we do get a Romney White House, he's vowed to go after porn. He's vowed
Right
to
after Planned Parenthood.
yeah, and Big Bird.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's porn and then Big Bird or Big Bird and then porn, but
Porn with Big Bird, I don't.
Right. Maybe it's porn with Big Bird.
I think like any time that we see, I think we'll see a retraction of the industry a little bit. I think people will be less willing to take certain risks, but it'll be a wait and see. Will Romney go after tube sites?
Right.
That's a question. I mean, for them to go after tube sites, it would be easy, because every tube site has a .com at the end of its name, and any website that is registered with a .com can be seized,
Right.
and its jurisdiction is in the United States. This is how they shut down the illegal gambling sites. They just seized the domain names, and you guys are breaking the law. Thanks for the domain names. You're out of business.
Right.
So if I was a tube site owner giving away free porn and people were coming on my site that were underage, I may be a little concerned, because I think from a standpoint of, what you got to look at it is, what are parents most concerned with? Are parents most concerned with being tied up and being penetrated, or are they more concerned with their 12-year-olds watching something on the internet?
Right.
And I think that's where you have the biggest change in the industry in the last 5 years, that is something that reaches everybody's house. And that's something where parents can go, oh my God.
Right.
The days of, 13-year-olds getting their dad's Playboys is one thing. It's
Very
another
different.
thing. It's another thing when you look at your kid's computer and it's all hardcore porn.
Right.
And I know, because I was involved in copyright litigation with downloader cases with torrent sites. I represented the owners of the Paris Hilton sex tape. I had lots of conversations with parents, because we would send out notices of the lawsuit, and they'd call me up and be like, I did not download this. My first question is, do you have a kid? Yes. Girl or boy? Girl. Boy. On the Paris Hilton case, it didn't matter, because the girls wanted to see her do it and the boys wanted to see her do it.
Right.
Yeah.
So be like, yeah, I got a 13-year-old son. I go, you probably need to have a discussion with your son. Why? He wouldn't watch this stuff. And it was literally,
13-year-old boy, right?
I'd have to go, well, I'm not saying anything bad about your child, but, they may be doing stuff with a computer when you're not looking. And then literally they would yell at me. And I would say, listen, I'm not trying to insult you. I'm not trying to, I'm just telling you that, we're rarely wrong. We can track this stuff. And they're like, you can track whatever goes on in my computer? I go, yes, there's nothing anonymous about the internet. Every place you go on the internet is tracked by your ISP. Like, really? Like, yeah, how do you think they catch people who download child porn? And then you get that, and they're like, yes, exactly. They know where you go, and they can track you, and that's how we got your information. And then they would call me back 3 days later and go, yeah, my son admitted to downloading the Paris Hilton videotape. I'd be like, okay. And that's the truth of the matter, is that parents need to watch their kids. They need to put restrictions on their computer. The easiest thing that you can do as a parent, if your kid's got a laptop, is put my PC on your computer and theirs. So literally, if your kid's in the back room and it's 11:30 at night and you want to see what he's doing, open up your laptop, turn on my PC, and you can look directly at his computer at any moment. And he won't know it. until it's there. So you can literally, without getting up off your couch and creating creaks in the floor so your kid can hear you coming down the hallway, and turn off the website so you don't see it, and he can clear out his cache because he knows the computer better than you do.
Right.
All you have to do is sit back while you're watching TV, open up your laptop, and you can literally watch everything he does on his computer. And that I mean, if I was a 13-year-old boy and I knew that my parents may be watching exactly what I'm doing, I would be very careful about what I did and where I went and what I saw.
You would go use your friend's computer.
Exactly. Yeah, probably go. Yeah, just like anything else, you go to your one friend's house.
Friend's house.
The
Everyone
parents
has the
didn't do
friend.
that. Yeah,
They
exactly.
have their preferences. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know where they're going to go with prosecutions, or even if they're going to raise them again.
Right.
But I would think that and I'm not a parent, but if I was a parent and I had a 13, 14, 15-year-old child or 10-year-old child, and I realized that they were looking at this stuff, that's what would make me the maddest. That having that access to that free porn would absolutely enrage me, because it's not something that you can really shut off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting. My niece, started typing things into Google and typing things. Someone showed her YouTube, and she wanted to see her One Direction videos or whatever. But she typed, I think, play in or something pretty innocent, and it was not innocent what came up. And I mean, the good thing in that case is I think. You would hope that it would force parents to actually have a discussion and have a conversation and talk about things, but unfortunately it doesn't happen as often as it should.
But at the end of the day, I don't really think exposure to naked bodies or people having sex ruins children.
No.
I mean, and this is the example that I use. The idea of rooms in houses is a relatively new invention in the history of humankind. Okay? 2 million years ago, we weren't living in rooms and houses. We were living in caves. And then we were living in teepees or huts. And huts don't have rooms. And then we were living in one-room houses with a coal stove in the corner. And through the history of humankind, kids have basically watched their parents have sex. Maybe the parents had it while the kid was asleep. Maybe the kid woke up in the middle of it because the parents were making noise and watched. And somehow humankind has been able to go from huts to space exploration while having sex in front of their kids.
Yeah.
Because there were no rooms and no doors to shut and nothing like that.
Right.
So, is porn going to ruin humanity? Absolutely not. We made it this far, and people had sex in front of their kids.
Porn has existed for a very, very, very long time.
And it will continue to exist. It'll just evolve into something else. People ask me like, oh, the porn industry's dead. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's just changing.
Yeah.
Instead of people buying content now and jerking off to a movie, now they want to cam with somebody and they want to have that real life experience. So money is still being fed into the industry. It's just being fed in a different place. And it's, I've got clients that are making more now than they've ever made before because the money pattern and the spending patterns have changed. And people are like, oh, is porn dead? I'm like, ever since somebody could draw a picture on the wall of a cave, he drew a picture of a naked woman, probably next to a buffalo or a bison.
Right, exactly.
But he drew a naked woman, and the next round is going to be naked holographs. Like you saw the Tupac thing, well, that's going to be porn in probably 10 years.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think that in general, the porn industry has been on the cutting edge of every technology that's happened. I mean, I know a lot of the people who worked on some of the first 3D films, and there were porn companies coming out saying, oh, yeah, we're working on that. Like, we've got it. We're dealing with this. Don't, have fun. We've already been working on it. Thanks so much. This isn't anything new. We're already doing things. So I think that in some ways they're already embarking on some of those.
We're being shut out of that though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, thanks to Steve Jobs. Yeah. He just basically gave us the big fuck you on everything having to do with Apple.
Yeah.
And kept us off of there. But that's the difference now, is that it's hardware that is creating technological, where we as an industry, I mean, you could say, yes, the internet is because of porn. You could say that the DVD player was because of porn, and the VHS player was because of porn. But we got nothing to do with the iPhone. We got
Right.
nothing to do with the iPad or any of those devices. And so, yeah, we've kind of lost our way, and I think from a technological standpoint, where, you know, if somebody had the money, I would love to see them to create a porn video game. Okay, people don't realize how much money video games make. It is fucking ridiculous.
Crazy.
Like, if I had money to put into something and I could go, I could do music, I could do movies, I could do porn, or I could do video games, it would be hands down video games every time. They make hundreds of millions of dollars on release of one game. You know, people don't realize this. And if somebody could be smart enough to figure out and develop their own software and hardware to run adult-based games off of that, that was proprietary, where you can interact with your favorite porn stars and you could play games, and it would be, then you can bring in, you know, this teledildonic type of technology that we're coming out with now, with camming, where you can literally, you know, instead of moving a joystick or waving your hand, you could fuck the teledildonics and she could fuck you back. I can't imagine what that could earn. That would be crazy.
Great.
But amazing.
Yeah. People could be their own porn star.
I want to thank you. Thank you very much for letting us talk to you.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it.
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
Yay! Yay!
Thank you.